Welcome to another episode of Now About That with James and Sarah. On this week's episode, we will be discussing a topic that has been covered on a lot of news channels over the past few years, controversial legislation. We wanted to discuss three different topics this episode: Florida's Don't Say Gay or Parental Rights in Education bill, and the anti-trans and anti-abortion laws passed throughout the U.S. However, we will be shifting our discussion this week to the news that came out about the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade. As a quick note, neither Sarah nor myself hold law degrees or have studied law, and all the information we will be discussing is purely opinion. Anyone listening to this should not take anything said throughout this episode as legal advice, as it is intended for discussion or entertainment purposes only. As many news outlets will mention, the justices have the drafted position leaked over the past week have mentioned that this is not the final decision and they still need to vote on it. John Roberts, a current sitting Supreme Court justice appointed by George W. Bush, has also stated that there will be a formal investigation into the breach. So, welcome to the podcast. Sarah, what are your thoughts so far? What are your initial thoughts on the drafted opinion?
So my initial thoughts are, fuck these guys. That's literally my first initial thought. My second thought was, how long are we gonna keep fighting over this? Like, I was listening to a couple of different people today, Stephen Colbert and Seth Graham. Is that his? I don't remember if that's his name. But anyway, they were talking about how in recent polls, about 84% of Americans believe that abortion should be legal.
Yeah, I think I've read something, or I saw a few things, reports that said over, is it 69% of Americans are in support of Roe v. Wade?
Yeah. There's like a significant number of people who are in favor of safe, legal abortions. So why are we still fighting over this? It seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I think so. I did get a chance to read through. I didn't read through the entire, 98 pages of the document that was leaked. I did read through about 40 pages of it and made some notes. Took some annotations about some items that I wanted to talk about. One of the biggest thing I'm reading, or I read in the opinion, is it doesn't seem, a lot of the information really seems to say it was initially incorrect that the court made the decision, and this isn't to really change, but it's to get rid of and make it to where it's the lawmakers that create the laws that govern abortion and the right to have an abortion. There are two actual cases that are identified. So it's Roe v. Wade, obviously, and then it's also Casey, which I hadn't heard much about until I read through this. And a lot of the argument is that Roe v. Wade was too vague, or vague, depending on who you are. And Casey kind of reinforced the fact that a lot of the information included in Roe v. Wade was too vague. There was something in there on, it's like the later pages where they're talking about, there's a lot of information that said some, let me go back to my notes because I actually wrote kind of word for word what it said. The opinion argues that this was a reach, and the instances where women were having children that were born prematurely that could be treated in a hospital that has training and the ability to care for and treat the premature baby versus a woman in a more rural area with a hospital that is not equipped to care for a premature baby. depends on the viability of the baby when it is prematurely born. So if it's born in a more rural setting, the actual viability time period is less. So say anything under 24 weeks, um, the baby would not be viable when it is born.
Right.
But if that same mother had that baby in a more urban area where there are hospitals that are able to actually care for and treat a premature baby, the likelihood of that baby surviving outside of the womb is higher. And so the argument basically said that was based on no facts or no real support, no evidence supporting that claim, and the court made the decision based on that in part on that. So what do you think about that?
First of all, any medical professional can tell you like the viability, like, you know, an actual doctor can give you that information. So it seems to me like that shouldn't have been, decided upon saying, oh, well, they didn't have enough evidence. Well, they obviously had enough information to make that decision in the first place. The other thing is, though, is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the fetus is viable or not when you're forcing someone to carry said fetus against their will, which by the way is a human rights violation. So
I think, and so I made a little note that I wanted to make sure I said. I will say that being a cis male, and have absolutely no intention of ever having children or caring for a child, my opinion honestly isn't the one that matters, and I have absolutely no say in this matter.
But it matters to
me. So that the voices that I think should actually be heard and that should matter are the ones of the people that would potentially be carrying the fetus and whomever their support system would include. Whether that support system be their partner, church, or family, the decision to carry a child to term should be left up to the individual and their support system, no one else. Based on the information in the opinion, I think a lot of the information they're including is outdated. The largest kind of push, or not push, but the largest argument in the opinion is that there's lack of historical precedence prior to Roe v. Wade. And there's references to the fact that medicine has changed and that there are laws requiring medical insurance to pay for all pregnancy-related expenses. However, not everyone has access to that medical insurance. So to me, reading that portion of the opinion, it seems like, okay, so you're saying there's laws that require medical insurance to pay for it. However, there are no laws requiring people to have said medical insurance, and there isn't a standard medical insurance for people to use.
Right.
So you can't really use that. To me, it doesn't seem like that's a good argument for saying, you know what, we're just going to get rid of this because people have another option. There are laws that are saying medical insurance has to pay for it. This law doesn't really matter in that instance. So one of the arguments that people can't afford it is now null and void because there's the law that says that health insurance has to pay for all prenatal and pregnancy related care.
Right. But the problem with that is that children are expensive. Even if you take away the medical aspects of being pregnant, How are you feeding this child?
Right.
How are you diapering this child? How are you like doing all these different things? Your child also has to go to the doctor.
Right.
You
So
know, like
sorry. So I didn't mean to step in, but that does kind of pull in the other argument that they're enforcing, that there are safe haven laws that allow the mother of the child to drop the child off and have no ramification of that, which I see you shaking your head, rolling your eyes. I totally agree. Like I said, I don't think this is a decision that the courts should be allowed to make. I think one of the other big arguments is this judgment shouldn't have come from the court. It should have been something that is put to a vote, and that the lawmakers should make laws around it. That being said, my personal experience, or not my personal experience, my personal opinion is, when you say that, you're saying lawmakers. So the people that are the state representatives should draft an opinion or draft a law, and then it should be put to the Senate, the state Senate, or the state House. And that's how that works. I don't agree with that. If it's going to be something that we're saying people should be allowed to vote on, it's something that needs to be put on a ballot saying, here's the law that is being presented. Do you agree with this law or not?
right. I think going back just a little bit though, the other thing that really bothers me about that is when it's saying there's no precedence. So technically speaking, there's no historical precedence for any of our laws.
Yeah.
Like there was no historical precedence to remove slavery, as an institution. There was no, historical precedence to do away with Jim Crow laws. There was no historical precedence to enact, the ability for anybody to marry whomever they want. Like, there was no historical precedence for these laws, these amendments. And you can't just say, well, we've never done it before, so we shouldn't do it now. That makes no sense. How are we supposed to grow as a country if we're unwilling to push things and move forward?
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to find where it said it here. There was other terminology that I'm trying to find, that it was like there's no precedent that from the early 20th century until the day Roe was handed down, every single state had such a law on its books that would criminalize abortion, usually at all stages of pregnancy.
Yes. Roe v. Wade didn't create abortions. It just created safer abortions. Like, there have been, historically speaking, there have been abortions since the very beginning. Like, you can even find abortions in the Bible. Like, God sanctioned abortions, FYI. So, like, there's actually so much historical precedence as far as at every stage of our history, there has been a person with a uterus trying to terminate a pregnancy that they did not want, or one that would kill them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So I found the kind of statement that I actually was looking for specifically. So it says, the inescapable conclusion is that the right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions. On the contrary, an unbroken tradition of prohibiting abortion on pain of criminal punishment persisted from the earliest days of the common law until 1973. The court in Roe could have said of abortion exactly what Luxembourg said of assisted suicide. Attitudes toward abortion have changed since Bracton, but our laws have consistently condemned and continue to prohibit that practice.
Again, very much like last week when we referenced, the Don't Say Gay bill and whatnot, is like, what does it matter? It's not your body. And then, like, I know everybody's going to be like, well, they have, a fetus has a different set of DNA, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But the thing is that why are we still fighting about this? Like, what does it matter? It's not your body. It's not your life. You're not the one who's going to be coming in and taking care of said child, or children that get left behind because their mom dies during childbirth. And also, can we just talk about for just a second how the United States has one of the largest mortality rates for pregnant people of any developed country? Like, especially people of color. Like, we're so focused on the wrong things.
I think that's the biggest thing. Is the only reason that this keeps coming up is because there are states that try to enact new abortion laws further restricting beyond what Roe v. Wade has already kind of said, here's the law.
Right.
And that's the issue that they're saying. These states that are bringing up or keep trying to pass or do pass laws that restrict the right to abortion or when someone can have an abortion or portions of an abortion, then they are getting sued by people saying that, hey, this law is going in like the direct opposite direction, or it's contradicting Roe v. Wade, which is a precedent that's been set. The other thing that really kind of frustrates me, and I think a lot of people are frustrated about, when you think about it, there are 3 sitting judges that shouldn't actually be sitting judges because they were appointed. One was appointed after someone had held up allowing a sitting president to actually appoint an open seat for, what was it, like 9 months, almost over a year?
Yeah,
it
was long
open
enough, and that didn't have a historical precedent either, FYI.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to the document and kind of look at some of the. So when I was reading through it, and I was reading through it, but I was also watching some videos about people saying, well, here are some different options to, say, replace abortion. One of the things was vasectomies for men. So if you don't want to pay for an abortion, but you still want to engage in sexual acts, get a vasectomy so you can't have the potential for rearing a child. I know that's probably never going to happen because there are a majority of men in power that make the laws, and we're not going to govern or make laws that tell men that they have to get a vasectomy, even though the process for reversing a vasectomy is less of a risk than an abortion.
Yeah.
I think the only thing there that someone would argue is getting a vasectomy. The male has to agree to it, otherwise it's forced castration, which is against the law.
Yeah. Though I would like to point out, it's not technically castration because they're still able to get an erection. Castration prevents any kind of erectile function at all.
I did not know that. So look at me learning stuff too. So one of the things that I'm like, I don't understand is if it's truly about the fetus, then make the state pay for the removal and the incubation of the fetus. If you're saying that fetus should be able to live, then make the state pay for a way for it to live outside of that person's body.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the argument is, well, it's a human life. It's not a human life it's not that person's life. If your argument is, well, we have to have this person stay alive, or we have to keep it in this person, keep this baby in this person, because otherwise it won't stay alive, then come up with something that can keep the baby alive to where the woman doesn't have to go through the 9 months of carrying a child, the health effects that come along with carrying a child to term, health defects, health issues that come along with carrying a child to term.
Yeah. It's just like, there's a lot that I want to say. Most of it involves cursing a lot. Because
we can mark this as explicit, and
well, we probably should, since I already started off by saying fuck.
I automatically do it anyways.
But like, here's the thing is that, okay, so this is not, how do I want to phrase this? So this is not the first time that Roe v. Wade has been challenged. I'm sure that if it stays intact, that this won't be the last time that it gets challenged. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying about how different states do different things. So Texas, for example, because that's where I am, you can have an abortion, but you have to have that abortion before 6 weeks. So most pregnant people don't even realize that they're pregnant until after that 6-week mark.
So I'll say that law is one of the reasons that it's being challenged again, or one of the reasons they're citing that they feel like the Roe v. Wade should be overturned, because there are so many people that are laws are being enacted that kind of contradict what Roe v. Wade is saying. And the issue there is, okay, so you're not holding the people that are making these laws accountable for creating laws that are going against already set precedents.
Right.
You're saying, oh, well, the precedents must be wrong then.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's like saying, if you're standing on a bridge, this is the dumbest little adage I've ever heard. If you're standing on a bridge and 5 of your friends jump off the bridge, does that mean it's okay for you to jump off the bridge? Just because there are 50 of the 50 states, there are 20 some states that are setting laws that contradict the Roe v. Wade precedents, doesn't mean that the precedence is wrong. It means that we're not holding the people that are setting these laws accountable for creating laws that go contradict that precedence that this groundbreaking case set.
Yeah. I think, no, going back. So my brain quit working. Sorry.
Yeah. It's 8:00 here. Well, it's 7:30 there, so
yes, it's 7:30
I can
here.
understand.
It's 7:30 here. But the thing is that Texas isn't the only one who's passed these kinds of things, but we're getting to the point where we're criminalizing miscarriages. And perfect example of that is back in Indiana. Purvi Patel is currently serving an incredibly long sentence for having a miscarriage. Like, in the end, it wasn't about the improper disposal of human remains, which is what they originally were like, oh, well, this is what this is for. No, she had a miscarriage and didn't go to the hospital, and therefore she got arrested, and she got, they said guilty. And it's like, where does that end though? Because what they're trying to pass through is not just the criminalization of an abortion. Like, no, you can't have an abortion. They're trying to criminalize the whole body at that point.
So really quick, I do want to point out her conviction was overturned.
When?
2016.
Okay, I didn't know that part.
So yeah, I'm just looking at an article from the Indianapolis Star, published on September 1st, 2016. And it says, an Indiana woman whose feticide conviction for self-induced abortion was overturned in July walked out of prison Thursday, a day after the judge sentenced her to less time than she had already served and ordered her immediate release.
She still has that on her record, though. Like, if he ordered less time, that's still a conviction.
Well, it says it was overturned.
Right, but then the other part that you just read said that when the judge ordered that her sentence be reduced to less time than what she had served, that's still a conviction. That's still going to be on her record.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like, reading more into it, it says Patel was convicted in 2015 of killing her premature infant by taking abortion-inducing drugs and sentenced to 20 years in prison. She appealed her feticide and child neglect convictions, and the Indiana Court of Appeals vacated both convictions in July, finding that the state's feticide law wasn't meant to be used to prosecute women for their own abortions. But the appeals court found that Patel should be resentenced on a lower-level child neglect charge that carries a maximum 3-year sentence. So she did get sentenced or charged with child neglect.
Just stupid. It's ridiculous.
Which I'm going to grab this and I will include it in some of the. So everything we're looking at, we're going to have included in the description or in a link to a Google Doc that has the items that we're looking at or that we did look at in the description of this episode. So we've been talking for about 30 minutes about this. Is there anything else you would like to say? Because I have a little bit of a conclusion that I kind of decided, or I came up with. Not decided, that sounds like it's definite. That is kind of like my conclusion after reading the bill and reading some items.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can fully rebut or discuss more afterwards. And then I would like to move on to a different topic after.
You know what? That's fair. That is reasonable.
Trying to make it a little bit, bring a little levity to this conversation. So here's the conclusion that I wrote. In conclusion, I would say that I partially understand where the argument is coming from when it says that some potential unsupported decisions were included in Roe v. Wade. However, it seems like the court is not allowing for the decision to be modified or amended and only plans to strike down the law. I will also argue that the law should be included in a vote where the citizens of the United States are allowed to vote on whether to keep the law in place, modify or amend the law, or overturn it based on the results from this national vote. If this is the main argument against the decision, then it seems like this would be the only way to put it to rest for good.
Mm-hmm. I think that I agree with that.
Okay.
Like, I don't understand. Hold on, let me pull up the document because I had it pulled up.
Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna stop real quick, and then
Okay.
we'll reset and start recording again. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Gender males. who don't have a uterus, will never have a uterus, and aren't the ones inevitably who are going to suffer from these laws. And there are no laws dictating what cisgender men can do with their bodies. So like, why is this even a question of whether or not this should be a thing? That's my takeaway.
Yep. And I think I would have to agree. Mainly, I mean, again, like I said earlier, it's not, I don't think this is a decision that I have to even agree on, because I am not a person that has the ability to carry a child. I do not have and never will have or ovaries or the capacity to carry a child. So I don't really have the right to make a decision whether someone can have something removed from their body that they don't want. That's like saying, and I know people are going to be like, you can't consider this like a growth or a cancer. It's like, that's like saying that if I had a cyst or a tumor on my skin or in my body that I wanted to have removed, someone coming and saying, well, you can't have it removed because it can move. It has feelings. It's something that's in your body that may not have the same DNA as you. No, it's also, and in some cases, killing people.
Right.
Before we move on to a more lighter topic, I did want to point out some information about, a lot of people are saying, and there could be, like I said earlier in this, I only got to, let me see what page I finally stopped on. The last page that I read and made notes on was page 48 of the 90-page document. So if there is more information about what I'm about to say, feel free to tell me I'm stupid. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong. I will agree because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to read the entire thing, but I will go finish reading it and come back. There's information that people are showing that they're citing laws like, or not laws, but cases like Oberfield versus Hodges, Lawrence v. Texas, and Wesbury versus Sanders. These things that are talking about school districts that are the equal, separate but equal. Those where they had a law that made segregation okay, basically.
Right.
This, and then it also talks about same-sex marriage, right to engage in consensual same-sex intimacy in one's home. These laws that they're not laws, these cases that they're citing are not, they're not saying that these cases should be overturned. They're saying that they're using this as evidence showing that the court has had times in the past where they've made judgments that needed to be rectified and fixed later on.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have amendments.
So yeah, like in the, well, no, not fixed, struck down.
Mm.
So all of these cases they're pointing out are saying that they're overruling other Supreme Court cases, whether they be Supreme Court at the state Supreme Court or Supreme Court at the what is the Supreme? What's the difference between state and one that's in DC? The highest Supreme Court, I guess.
Yeah, they're the highest Supreme Court.
So they're saying basically that they're using those as evidence that are saying there are times in the past where the Supreme Court has made judgments on cases that then needed to be reversed and overruled. So they're using it as precedence to say this is nothing new, to overrule a case that was set forth by the Supreme Court. They're not saying that because they're talking about overruling Roe v. Wade, they're also going to look at overruling like Oberville versus Hodges, and I could be completely butchering that. The right to same-sex marriage, or the segregation in schools. And I just wanted to point that out. And again, if it's further in the document, I will own up to it and say that I didn't get to read that far. And I shouldn't. I will backtrack if I need to in the future. So, do you have anything else before we move on to a different topic?
No, I think I'm ready to be done with this
Okay.
topic.
So the other topic I wanted to talk to you about and get your opinion on is cancel culture.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on cancel culture?
So my thoughts are twofold. First of all, I feel like it is perfectly reasonable for you to get quote unquote canceled for doing shitty ass stuff. And for being a shitty ass person. However, I do also know that people can grow and change and become better people. Do they often do that? No, not really. But there is the option for that. I think the biggest thing though is that if cancel culture was as prevalent as people try to make it, a lot of these people would not still be making a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
So, like,
I agree.
If you don't like somebody, don't support them. That's what I personally do.
Yeah.
Is like, if I can't deal with blah 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 from blah blah blah, then I won't deal with them.
Yeah. I think for me, it kind of leads into the same argument as the abortion. It's like, I can't tell you what to do. If you're going to do it, if you're going to listen to this person's music, that's on you.
Right.
Or if you're going to watch this person's comedy show, enjoy their comedy show.
Comedy.
If you're going to support their art, I guess, then I mean that's on you. Even after some of the things that they've done, I think I agree with what you said. It's in most cases, anyone that's been quote unquote canceled, they're still making millions of dollars in most cases.
Yeah, they're not actually canceled. But then, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The thing that irritates me the most, I think, about this whole thing is that the people who quote unquote who complain quote unquote about cancel culture are the ones who should have been canceled a long ass time ago, but there they are still making money, and now they're making jokes and saying, oh, cancel culture is coming for me, blah blah blah, I can't say this racist ass shit anymore, or I can't say this other shitty ass quote unquote joke anymore.
Right.
Like, dude, if your jokes rely on punching down, you're doing it wrong. So like, you're not that funny to begin with.
Yeah. I think you have to look at it in two ways. It's like, are you being canceled, or are you being held accountable for the terrible things you're saying? Like, there's two different things.
Yeah, they really are. And I feel like personally speaking, I feel like the majority of people who are getting canceled are getting held accountable for shit that they've done and should be held accountable for it. Like, you should absolutely be held accountable for shit that you did. Like, if you were a bad person, yes, there is, the chance that you've become a better person, but, you know, that doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to hold you accountable for those actions in the past.
Right. I agree. And I think I agree with what you said earlier. You can do terrible things or say terrible things. I won't say do terrible things. You can say terrible things. But you can also learn from that mistake and grow as a person. And if you are able to show that you have grown and redeem yourself, I think two people kind of come into mind whenever I think about it. One of them is one of my favorite YouTubers that I am still sad to this day that they are not producing anything on YouTube. Jenna Marbles. She was canceled for I don't even remember exactly what she was canceled for. It was something that happened like 10 years before they actually came for her and canceled her. And she had so many mental health things going on that she just said, I'm just going to take a step back. I'm not doing anything. Her YouTube channel is still open, and I haven't checked, but I want to say she has removed the monetization from it. So she's no longer making money from her YouTube channel.
Right.
Which I feel like, to me, like if you look at all the things that Jenna had done and is, I don't know if she's still doing because she's not on any social media. But if you look at all the things that she had been doing before she was canceled, she's changed. Like, to me, she's made amends of any wrongdoing that she did.
Right.
And she was actually proactively trying to learn from the things that she had been doing in the past. So I mean, that's one. The other one to me would be like Shane Dawson.
Yeah, I feel like Shane Dawson still deserves to be canceled because I don't feel like he's made any real changes.
I don't know. I mean, I watch his videos. I follow him on social media. I don't think what he was canceled for is something that he does anymore. And similar to Jenna Marbles, he's able to say, I know this is wrong and I'm trying to learn. Like, yeah, he'll still make mistakes. Like, he makes jokes about suicide a lot. In saying that, I will say he claims to have suicidal thoughts. So his joking is his way of
Coping.
Coping with the suicidal thoughts that he does have. Is it a great way? Should it be something that you are documenting and uploading? No, I don't think so. Which I could kind of see why it's showing that he isn't learning. But then again, he's also seeking help. He's going through counseling. He's going through working on himself. I mean, he also jokes about his eating disorder because he uses food to cope with problems. That's why he's gained some of the weight that he lost from when he was big on YouTube. He's gained some of it back, which, I mean, I don't think, to me, he's not. I mean, he's a bigger person, but I wouldn't say by any means he's overweight at all. But to me, I'm like, if you're being held accountable and you're showing effort that you're trying to change, then I don't think you should continue to be canceled.
I obviously can't speak for Jenna Marbles because I didn't didn't like Jenna back in the day anyway. She was never my fave. I remember you trying to get me into her, and I just, not a thing I did. Because I didn't find her funny. I would say along the same lines for Shane is like, I found one or two of his videos funny when we were younger, and then he just started doing all this weird creepy shit, and like even now I feel like a lot of his stuff is very disingenuous. It's how it comes across for me. So that's why I'm kind of like, meh. It just feels like he's doing it for show most of the time. Do I think that like he deserves to not have a career? No. But like also it's another one of those things where I'm not gonna support him though. Like
Yeah,
he doesn't have my support.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we said earlier. It's, you don't have to support them, but like you don't have to keep trying to tear down their career.
Yeah, I'm not like, there are people that I feel like should have their careers completely and totally demolished. Roman Polanski, Harvey Weinstein, Louis C.K. Like, fuck those guys. They absolutely deserve to have their careers ruined. And I like Bill Cosby deserves to have his career ruined. I completely 110% feel that way. But like the thing is also what it is that person's being canceled for. Because like the people that I just named are all like people who have sexually assaulted other people. And so I'm over here like, nah, y'all deserve to not have a career and to have your work trashed. J.K. Rowling deserves to have her shit trashed, personally speaking.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, granted, like I'm on the trans spectrum, so that's my discourse.
Okay, so moving on to something a little more fun. You are getting on a plane on Wednesday.
I'm so excited.
You're gonna get to come to Rhode Island, which I'm excited about.
I'm very excited.
So is there anything that you are looking forward to doing while you're in Rhode Island?
Pestering you. Well, I definitely want to see the ocean. Avi. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a mermaid, so there's that. I am looking forward to potentially going to Connecticut because I'm looking forward to knocking 2 states off of my list of states I haven't visited. Because that'll bring me like into the single digits. I'm stoked about that.
Of states you haven't visited?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There are 11 states I haven't been to. And Rhode Island and Connecticut are 2 of them. So that'd bring me down to 9. But yes, I've been to the majority of the states.
I haven't even really thought about how many states I've gone to. I mean, just 2 years ago, I was on the complete opposite side of the United States, in Northern California, which I miss to this day. So I'm gonna wrap it up with a question and like a kind of a what would you do thing.
Oh God. Okay.
Or if you had a choice. We'll do an if you had a choice. So
Okay.
if you could choose one superpower, what superpower would you choose and why?
Teleportation. And honestly, it would be for the travel. Like, let me just teleport myself to Rhode Island. I don't have to take a plane. You know, I don't have to pay all this money.
Save a lot of money.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and like I wanna blip over to Italy for lunch. Let me just do that.
Yeah. I think if I were to choose one superpower to have, it would. I think I've always thought about this, even like when I was watching when I was younger and when I watched Charmed. Telekinesis, or the
Mm,
ability to move things with my mind, has always been something that I've always wanted.
right.
So that would be the one that I would choose. Um, just because, like, if I'm sitting on the couch and I can't reach my remote or can't reach my drink, I just want to wave my hand and get it to come to me.
Yeah, use the force, young Skywalker.
All right, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up and call it a day. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, all the information that we've talked about throughout this episode is purely opinion based and for education, not educational, um, entertainment purposes only. So everything that we've said should be taken at face value. Again, Sarah and I have not studied law or do not hold law degrees. And everything that we've talked about, again, was purely opinion based. And as you can kind of tell from the conversation, we're both more liberal people. So if you don't agree with that and you've listened to this, thank you for listening. I appreciate you listening. Just because we talked about something you don't like does not mean you should rate this episode negatively. Don't listen to the episode, move on. You have the full right to not listen to it and move on. If you would like to have a conversation or would like to reach out to Sarah or myself, we do have a Gmail account that you can reach out to. The Gmail account is now aboutthatpod@gmail.com. And visit us on Instagram. If you would like to follow us on Instagram, that would be great as well. Again, like I said with the last episode, I don't expect anyone to listen to this, but if you do, amazing. Thank you very much. And I hope you would stick with us and continue on because I think we're going to have fun during this
I
little
agree.
podcast.
I think so too.
And with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you next week. I will say I'm going to start doing a little mini podcast by myself. So there'll be 2 episodes up almost probably every week, one with just James and one with James and Sarah. So look forward to that, hopefully. All right.
All right.
Bye,
See you later.
everybody.
Bye.